Hello, 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 TM24 here, and we are back with some more Marvel Snap content. Now, I figured we'd start the week strong. We're going to talk about 5 decks that are thriving post changes, the nerfs, the buffs, all that good stuff, and you can see them right here. We've got Destroy, we got Sarah Surfer, of course, High Evolutionary Lockdown. Discard is always around, and then there's a really nice move Phoenix Force deck that seems to be doing pretty well right now, but let's get into each of them for you. So first up, we have Destroy. Destroy just simply seems to be the strongest right now, with cards like Bucky Barnes coming through with, Deathlock right on top of that. You feel like you've won that lane. You've got Nimrod, who can just kind of be everywhere once you start destroying him. Free deaths, powered up nulls. This list is probably the most kind of standard one, but I've definitely seen some other cards included. So a couple cards that I've seen included on top of the ones that you see here. 6-drop in the form of Arnim Zola. Zoloing something like a Nimrod can feel absolutely amazing. Additionally, Zolaing a Venom with a Nimrod out there, it can go absolutely nuts. So I've seen Zola in this list as well. With Zola, you can also see something like a Shuri to buff up that Nimrod. I don't hate that either, but these Destroy packages are pretty standard, and honestly, most of the time, they're just enough on their own. So Destroy seems to be king right now. It seems like a lot of people are playing it. So you do have to be, a little bit wary of it, because there are some fairly easy counters if you are not careful. Something as simple as an armor can completely screw up a Destroy deck, but if you're looking for something a little bit different, I recently put out a video just yesterday that includes Beast, so the Bounce Beast in a Destroy deck that gives you kind of another option. I'll link the video right here, but as of right now, Destroy seems to be king, and this is a very good list to build off of. But let's get right into the next one, and it doesn't take long to get there. It's Sarah Surfer. Now, there was a big change. Magic going from 5 cost to 3 cost, I think really opens up this list. Now, the reason I like this in particular list is for a couple of different reasons. I feel like Storm into Brood is simply one of the best 3/4s that you can make. Additionally, you have a follow-up in the form of Juggernaut. But because Magic is so cheap now, and a 3-drop, going to get buffed by Surfer, and extending the game allows you to still fit in a Shang-Chi on 7 next to 2 3-drops. So it would probably be Shang-Chi, Maximus, Surfer, and then you've already got all those other 3-drops out there. So I really like this list right now. You have answers in the form of Shang-Chi, Killmonger. Goose can make it very hard for your opponent to get into a location. Obviously, you've got Storm, and follow that up with either a Brood or a Juggernaut, and you're feeling pretty good. So this list is just super, super consistent. It's got answers, it's got power, it kind of has it all. The one part where it struggles a little bit is getting into those tough locations, and we have 2 answers for that. If it's something like Death's Domain, you can play Storm there. If it's something that you can't play a card there, at least you can get Jeff there. So you've got ways to get power to those locations. Now, being a Sarah Surfer deck, obviously you're looking at 3-drops if you want to include other cards, because you can typically play 3 cards on turns 6 and 7 if you've got Sarah down on 5. A card like Dazzler seems like a pretty good option, as does Wolfsbane. Honestly, a little bit underrated if you're looking to stack power in just a single location. A lot of these 3-drops seem pretty good. Additionally, if you wanted to go with a little bit of buff, Nakia is super strong right now, so I wouldn't hate seeing her in this list as well. But Sarah's been around for forever. Sarah Control was there for a while. I think this list might be even better than the Sarah Control, because you have some of those control elements, but you can put out more power with this list, and that's why I like it. Just because it seems so strong, it seems so consistent. You've got answers, you've got power, you really have it all. So this is a list worth playing right now. But let's get right into the next one, and we know what it is. It's High Evolutionary Lockdown. Now, one little change that I've seen with this list, at least from the way that I see it, the way that I play it, is I took out Wasp. Now, the reason we did that is because Wasp obviously took a little bit of a nerf when High Evolutionary had some changes. Now it's afflicting only one card, so it's a 0-2, which honestly isn't terrible, but for me, it just doesn't seem worth keeping in there. We have enough 1-drops in Sunspot, Nebula, and Misty Knight. Now, we don't have any 2-drops, but we've got really nice follow-up in the form of Storm and Cyclops on 3. I really like Storm in this list, 1, because it's a lockdown list, but 2, I really love the inclusion of Dr. Doom. We can lock out with things like Spider-Man and Professor X, but if you lock with Spider-Man, you can still reach that location with Dr. Doom, so it allows you to put power onto that location without necessarily have to play on that location. Additionally, if you're behind in that Storm location, Dr. Doom reaches it as well. So I still think Dr. Doom is super, super strong, but this is essentially a standard High Evolutionary Lockdown list. Cyclops still probably the best High Evolutionary card, although Thing probably not far behind. Of course, if you got Hulk in your hand, he's going to be powering up, but this deck is just consistent. It's strong. It makes it very, very tough for your opponent to play against. And a lot of times, if you're playing against this deck, you feel like you're probably losing. And that's a tough feeling and definitely takes its toll. But if you're looking to just grind some games, gain some ranks, some levels, maybe hit infinite, this is not a bad list to look at just because it's very consistent power. And a lot of the times you can win games that it'd be very tough for other decks to win. So definitely a good one worth climbing for. But we're going to move right along. We're not wasting too much time. This is meant to be a quick summary video for you guys. And we've got a discard list. Now, discard has been around for forever, but this list has changed a little bit. A lot of people are playing cards like Blade in their list, and I don't necessarily like the random effect. Now, we do have a random effect in the form of Gambit, but ideally you're playing Gambit on turn 5 or something like that. Ideally, you don't have to play him at all if you hit the right cards. Now, I like the inclusion of Storm in this list as well, because you could Storm a Morbius lane, or you can Storm and then follow up with Dracula, and it feels like you are probably going to win that lane. But the same play line kind of sticks with any sort of discard list, or at least ones that contain Dracula and MODOK. And that is Dracula on 4, MODOK on 5, on 6 you're playing a couple of Swarms, and then either Apocalypse or Chavez, depending on what you need to do on turn 6. So again, a very, very consistent list here. One thing that I've always disliked about this list is that it doesn't have answers. With so many strong and decks that are going tall, something like Shang-Chi could be a really, really nice inclusion. Maybe you take out Gambit for that, but that would essentially be the discard list that has just been around for forever. Because Gambit had to change, I like the inclusion of him in here, so I don't mind that. But overall, this list is pretty steady. It's pretty standard. You could make some changes if you wanted to. If you wanted to toss something like a Mystique in there to copy that Morbius, I've seen that done. If you're looking at other discard cards, you know, Swordmaster, although it's a random effect, 3/6 is pretty dang strong, so I could totally see that. But overall, I really like this list kind of as is. If I had to pick a list to play, it would be this one, and the only real flex spot I would look at would probably be that Gambit slot, and maybe it'd be for a Shang-Chi or something like that. But overall, discard, super consistent, great deck to just kind of play some games, gain some levels, similar to the High Evolutionary list. But this next list is one that's super fun and a little bit different, and it's Move. And of course, we've got some destroy elements in here, but this list is a little bit different. So this list actually includes Shuri. So because Phoenix Force was put down to a 4/5, you have the option of going something like multiple man on 2 into a Venom on 3 right into a Phoenix Force on 4. So you've got 8 power Phoenix Force that you're then moving around, and those copies are sticking. But you also have the option to go Shuri on 4 and then Phoenix Force on 5, meaning you have 13 power Phoenix Forces floating around. At least I'm pretty sure it's 13. I can't remember. I do have a full video with this list coming out later this week, so be on the lookout for it. But regardless, Phoenix Force, super fun card. I think it helps that it was put back, well, not put back. It was buffed by reducing the cost down to 4. I think that helps a lot. Now, this list definitely has more upside, but if you don't hit Phoenix Force, it can feel a little bit tough. So for that reason, a card that you could look to include, which is very, very standard card, is simply, let me see if I can find it here, is simply Hulkbuster, right? Putting Hulkbuster just on top of a multiple man on 3, maybe you haven't hit your 2 destroy options. I personally like to play 3 destroy options, but I see why you've got 2. But if you don't hit those destroy options and you've got multiple man out there, you could still toss Hulkbuster on. Now it's a 3/7, so that still gives you opportunity to move that multiple man around, get those 7 power copies going on the board, and really put some pressure on your opponent. It doesn't rely so heavily on a card like Phoenix Force. So for that reason, I think Hulkbuster is a very simple inclusion. Additionally, I talked about it a little bit. I like to have multiple options to destroy, so I wouldn't hate seeing a Deathlock in this list. But also, then we run into a problem where we don't have enough targets. We have Human Torch, we have multiple man. Human Torch is not a great target simply because, you know, Killmonger being around, all of a sudden that Human Torch means absolutely nothing. So another solid target would be Dagger. Of course, you can move it to the locations and allow it to start buffing up. So I like Dagger as another potential card to include as another destroy option card. Additionally, we're moving around a whole lot. I wouldn't hate seeing a Spider-Man in this list as well, just for the discount. I could easily see something like Taskmaster and Zola going and leaning more heavily into a couple of these destroy and move cards and really take the deck that way. But these have been the 5 decks that I feel are running the meta right now. Some have been around for forever, like this Discard and High Evolutionary ever since he came to be. Some have had slight changes in Sarah, and some are just dominating right now in Destroy. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know if you've got a list that you feel deserves to be one leading the meta, or one that you've had a ton of fun playing with. If you saw my last video, I'm playing viewers list, so if you've got a fun list, put it in the comments and let me play with it and make a video, and you know, it'll be a great time. But if you've hung around till now, please hit the subscribe and like button if you haven't already done so that you don't miss a single video coming out. And until that next one, have some fun.